Thanks for showing up. This is Janet Parsons. I'm with Thinking Boise Real Estate, which is a Keller Williams Realty Boise team. And today we're going to talk about the inspection. So if your house seems to have maybe a lot of problems that you're a little bit worried about, we may have asked you to get a pre-inspection. And in that case, we're going to already know up front what some of the problems are. Hopefully we've actually had some of them addressed. But most of the time, we won't have had that pre-inspection. Instead, the inspection happens after you're under contract. It's pretty much the first thing. There is a limited window of time that the buyer gets to inspect your home. Within that time frame, they have an inspector come, take a look. That inspector will give them a report, the buyer that is, and then if the buyer thinks based on that report that they need to ask you for some sort of concessions, whether that's monetary concessions or they want certain things fixed, then that will be in a specific form that's delivered to us as the seller, and then that's another period where we'll do a little negotiating. So that's kind of how the inspection works. The inspector that comes, and almost always a buyer will get an inspector. It's very, very rare that someone won't. And as agents, we usually encourage people to do it, just in case. So we'll verify with you that the time works, and we'll again ask you to be gone during that time frame. Depending on the size of your house, the style of your house, and the inspector, it may take anywhere from between an hour and a half to 4.5 hours. So we will let you know, and you will be gone during that time period. Oftentimes the buyer comes, meets the inspector there, does a few other, looking around type things, maybe measuring for blinds, etc. So that's what's going on in your house while you're away. After that, just to let you know, this is not a closing cost. The inspector is actually a vendor who works directly for the buyer. The buyer will pay them immediately. That's not something that goes through closing. We will get a copy of the inspection if the buyer requests certain items to be repaired. And we could either get a copy of the entire inspection, or they're legally required just to give us the pieces that relate to the portion that they're requesting. And so at that time, we'll take a look at the inspection. Usually there are photos. We'll see what makes sense for you, what makes sense as far as safety and what you might have to do even if this buyer didn't move forward. And we'll make all of that a win-win for everybody. Buyer and seller have to agree on this place at this time. And then once that's agreed upon, we're going to move on to the next step, which as far as you're concerned as the seller, the next step is the appraisal.